Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Omnibus. So far in this season, we've spent a lot of time with literary giants, writers like Balzac and John Donne and Thomas Mann. Well, tonight, we change tack completely to celebrate the art of the common man, or to be more accurate, those very uncommon men, the miners of Britain. Now, paintings, writing, music, they're not the first things you think of when you consider the miner's daily grind, the sweat and the grime of coalface and pithead. But where there's muck, there's brass, they say, and I'm talking about brass bands. It was a colliery band which gave the Omnibus producer, Geoff Baines, the inspiration to make this film, which he's called Shafts of Sunlight. He was up in Yorkshire researching into miners' artistic activities generally, and they took him to hear the Carlton, Maine, Frickley Colliery band. Imagine a small brick hut, only a couple of 100 yards from a big slag heap. It was in this unpromising setting that the band was playing, and playing music of such quality that it seemed to splash colour across the grey mining background. And that band's performance confirmed, if confirmation was needed, that there is an enormous load of artistic talent to be found amongst the men who work in the coal mines of this country. Some of the poems and the short stories in the film were unearthed at Sheffield University, where miners have been submitting their work every year since 1927 for the Arthur Markham Memorial Prize. Some of the writing comes from books written by miners who've become professional writers, of whom Sid Chaplin is perhaps the best known. He began to work down a pit at the age of 15, and he now has 6 novels and several books of short stories to his credit. You'll hear some of his words, and many more by men who are still working in the pits. The paintings in the film are by 2 artists. Norman Cornish, no longer a miner but a full-time painter, sets the mood above ground for us in this program with his paintings of the pit top and mining villages. The underground scene is captured by the more somber work of Tom McGuinness. McGuinness still works below ground as an electrician in a pit in County Durham. The paintings, the writings, the music are all blended in tonight's omnibus, not only to display the talents of mining men, but also to give a first-hand picture of life in a mining community today, as well as earlier in the century, because the writing is always about the past. The action takes place in the present, a weekend in the Yorkshire mining village of South Elmsall, just north of Doncaster. It's midday, the early shift is over, and the musicians of the Carlton, Maine, Frickley Colliery band are setting out for their routine Friday rehearsal in the band room.
Gathers pace and weight as well. Now go forward.
came to love that sudden change from darkness to light. Sometimes the air would be marvellously clear, the sun bright and everything laughing aloud. That's how things go in the pits. Tenderness and harshness, beauty and foulness, seriousness and grim humour, all mixed into a strange medley that keeps one always wondering what's going to happen next.
This is an attempt, boys, to just destroy the cloth cap image of mining. You live in the mining district, but I've no doubt that you'll probably think that there are better jobs than mining. There probably are, but this is just to disillusion you and encourage you to come to the colliery. This is a shot of an old mine inset, an old colliery surface, if you like. You'll note the amount of coal that's strewn about on the floor and the general disarray. We don't approve of that today because of the amount of accidents that occur through tripping over pieces of coal and wood. This is a slide of an old mining family. The father and son have just come home from work. The boy, probably 13 years of age, was working in the pit. He perhaps would have to wait until his father had got bathed before he could get bathed.
The kitchen of our house was dining room, drawing room, bathroom, wash house and bakery. Sometimes the new baked bread made it fragrant, but more often it smelled of sweaty pit clothes, sour and something more.
The house is one of a street containing 60 exactly like it. They have the appearance of barracks when seen from a distance. They've other features peculiar to barracks: uniformity, lack of beauty, greyness, noise.
I'll make sure that the pay is right, for no mistake will be rectified after the man has gone from that window. I shake out me money. £2 notes, 2 half-crowns, 3 shillings and sixpence. £2, 8 and 6pence.
At the end of the week, it's strange how swiftly we forget the problems of the pit. Possibly because they're so far hidden from daylight. When we have cleared our throats and washed the grime from our bodies, we feel so different as a good dinner drives away the hollowness of hunger.
L74 N 69576.
71K 89920.
Off I goes to Banbury, Cocker. See thee tomorrow.
Some smart person comes up with the idea to call the street Colliery Bew. As if anybody in a normal frame of mind would want to be reminded that there's a bleeding pit anywhere near. As if we didn't stinking well know. Given a dry day and a following wind, and that's it. More dust than there is in the British Museum. The high wheels of the pulleys brand this place, and pit heaps rise in fast defiling stir. With every stone that falls, the green grass dies. The litter of the pit is everywhere. And yet I would not have it otherwise. These are the things I lean on in my mind, as in some room where each familiar chair in rightful place gives comfort to the blind.
It was wonderful what could be done with a shilling. It used to cost twopence to watch the football match, and the needs of the inner man were satisfied with fish and chips costing twopence. Washed down with pop, 1 penny. This left a margin of fourpence for sweets or fruit.
Little bit of class in apples there.
Best bananas today now, ladies. Oh, and they are good today, these apples, girls. Apples that'll melt in your mouth like butter there now.
So unemployment has come. The misshapen son of progress, snarling at all men like the shambling, wart-eyed hunchback of Notre Dame. Pride, hope, laughter flee before the drear thing, and those who were erect, prideful, courageous, now droop their shoulders and drift.
You're eating and eating. Extra large out.
There was the language of caps. Pulled square to the ears, it indicated that you were off to the chapel or a leap show. Tilted to the back of the head, that you were on your way to the pub, a dance, or off courting. Turned back to front, it shielded your neck from the rain. A cap was handy for picking up boiling kettles, or an hot poker, for carrying eggs, blackberries and mushrooms. In the end, too shabby for work, it ended its life as a duster or a glove for handling oven tins. I grew up with gambling. From betting marbles, fag cards, or conkers, you naturally progress to the bookies runner, who welcomes you with open arms. He was as essential as vicar, doctor, and schoolmaster.
He loves his birds. This flying is still a miracle to him. When he was a kid, he gazed at birds in the air with a kind of amazement. He works 200 fathoms down, but his mind is always with the wide-winged birds. Under the harshness of the pit, I found a warmth and kindness rare in this world. Out of distress came a comradeship known only to a pitman or a soldier at the front.
What do you mean, son? Oh, mark your man! Mark your man! Get on it! Get going!
John.
Come on, Ian, come on. Come on, Ian, come on. Come on, Ian, come on. Come on. Come on, Ian, come on. Come on. Come on, Ian, come on, come on. Come on, Ian, come on.
John! We want that other side covering.
If the women weren't preparing for someone coming in, it were for someone going out. They rubbed and scrubbed, washed and dusted from morning till night. Give 'em a chance, and at weekend, cleanliness would be terrifying. The wrestle and risk at pit was infinitely preferable to life in that kitchen.
The great day dawned. 50 years of propaganda had stressed how wonderful everything would be once the pits were nationalised. The pits are ours. No more two sides. Ask and you shall receive, we were told.
On Sunday, they preached hellfire and damnation. If they couldn't love you into the kingdom of heaven, they swore they would frighten you into it. On Sunday morning, when the bells were pealing in village churches, when the congregations over the length and breadth of the land knelt in prayer, I sat there alone, half a mile from the surface, 1 mile from the nearest church, and seemingly hundreds of miles from God. The colliery officials would pray first, then came the turn of the miner. This was his finest hour. This is what he had been waiting for all week. God was no longer an omnipotent being in heaven. He was in this chapel. He was their mate.
We know, Lord, there's no need to tell thee anything. Thou knows what we have to put up with at work, and thou knows their tactics. We thank thee today, Lord, that thou can see through them, and hast promised that thou'll punish the wicked. We are poor, Lord, thou knows that, but do they? If they do, they keep awfully quiet about it, and they give us nothing. We be thankful today, Lord, if thou in thy wisdom would point out to them the error of their ways.
And then it was the turn of the minister.
You are miners, brothers. Think of the dangers of your calling.
They take a lamp into the most terrifying darkness, and they are not afraid. In the strata, they meet a darkness like a velvet pad pressed against the open eye. They're like flies in a giant's hand which may close at any moment. Tears are rare things in colliery towns and villages. Colliers and their wives seldom cry. I sometimes wish they did cry occasionally, for the sight of a woman's face at times of disaster is one that haunts the mind for a long time afterwards. It is in the eyes that a man dare not look. It is a concentration of all the things that a woman can feel, and it makes men wilt before it.
Number 3 on its own. Number 4 on its own. 2 and 4, 24. 3 and 2, 32. 3 and 6, 36. 7 and 8, 78. 7 and 2, 72. 20, 20. Number 1 on its own. 5 and 8, 58. 6 and 1, 61. 10, 10. 7 and 6, 76. 1 and 8, 18. 5 and 1, 51. Both the 6s, 66. Both the 8s, 88. 6 and 5, 65. 8 and 2, 82. 2 and 5. Any more cards beside this one? Check in this one, please, Christian.
It's an angry night. It's a stormy night. Cold rain chills with stinging blast. It's a black night, a haunting night, and fiendish shapes no shadows cast.
When one of our number is killed in the pit, all work ceases at that colliery for the day. It is a custom as old as the pits themselves. Perhaps it's an instinctive revolt against the pit. As if we were saying, "You've taken one of us today. Let that suffice you. You shall have no more." Buzzers, hooters, sirens scream and wail. Time to desert the cosy bed. Sleep and fantastic dreams are dead, and once more the day. The wind was right that day for washing. It was blowing the dust of the pit down the valley away from the village. I was 12 years old, and that meant freedom from school. The sensation of the traveller who starts on his journey to Central Africa is nothing compared to the thrilling realisation that I was starting work in the mine that day. I was given a pony of my own. True, he belonged to the company, but who was the company, and where was it? Something limited, I knew, but the pony was mine. He was mine at home, in the street, in my sleep, and everyone knew it. That was a long, long day, when all the day was night, and I was profoundly pleased when it came to an end. I worked 10 hours that day, and my pay for it was 10 pence.
The mother has an old cardigan on, looks very poverty-stricken. The little boy in the middle foreground, or is the little girl, she looks as though a good meal wouldn't do her any harm. This is a modern miner waving goodbye to his wife and children. His wife is very nicely dressed, the children are well dressed. He has got very good clothes on, even though he's going to a dirty pit. He carries a plastic food container, and it's a general air of well-being.
All right.
For one moment they looked out upon the bursting joy of spring. Then the gates were clashed and locked, and they dropped into another world.
The high wheels of the pulleys brand this place, and pit heaps rise in fast defiling stir. With every stone that falls, the green grass dies. The litter of the pit is everywhere. And yet I would not have it otherwise. These are the things I lean on in my mind, as in some room where each familiar chair, in rightful place, gives comfort to the blind.
Shafts of Sunlight was filmed in South Yorkshire, and the music at the end of the film is called Journey into Freedom. It's by Eric Ball. Incidentally, you'll be seeing a couple of colliery bands through very different eyes later in the season, because Andre Previn is going to devote one of his music features for us to finding out what makes a brass band tick, or blow, or whatever it is that brass bands do. Omnibus returns next week with the first of 3 75-minute programs called The Friendly Invasion, a trilogy about the impact of American music on our own society over the last 100 years or more, all the way from the plantation melodies of Stephen Foster to the raucous sounds of rock and roll. And the first program features that wonderful 93-year-old pianist and composer U.B. Blake, probably our last link with the era of classic ragtime, not to be missed. Join us then next week for next week's Omnibus, and until then, good night from all of us on the programme. Good night.